Great to have you on the show here today, Lorin. I'm really excited to be chatting with you. It sounds like you're doing some really amazing stuff. And I wanted to just get you to start off by sharing with our listeners, what is it that you do right now? Because I can see you've got your finger in a whole lot of pies there. What does life and business actually look like for you at the moment?
James, thanks for having me on. But look, James, I'm really passionate about life in general. I've always been that way, and I guess maybe when we get a chance to go back to my early days, you'll perhaps understand why that is. But I do a number of things at the moment. I do a lot of motivational speaking work and seminars with schools, corporate organisations, and that carries a few different angles all over Australia, overseas. But I also run a Advanced Remedial Therapy clinic. I'm based in Brisbane, and I started a new clinic here about 18 months ago, and it just took off like crazy, and it's been going very well. And I'm really passionate about the industry. I've been working in the health industry now for like 30 years, and so had a lot of experience and love helping people, treating people. I like getting results. I'm a real, problem solver. And but I'm a people person too, and so and I enjoyed science and enjoyed health, and so I guess it's just a combination of all those things that's kind of led to where I am now and what I'm doing. And so I don't feel like I work at all. I just enjoy doing what I do in the clinic,
that's fantastic.
running workshops, doing seminars. It's a lot of fun.
It sounds great. And Advanced Remedial Therapy is a massage therapy clinic. You're a massage therapist. What does that actual clinic look like? Do you employ other staff or do you work by yourself?
Well, I've just started on my own again about 18 months ago. I worked in with a chiropractor. In fact, I'll just tell you briefly what happened there. I rang him up. I had some doctors and chiros and physios saying to me, Lorin, you need to get back into this industry more seriously, because I took kind of not a break, but I just sort of slowed down a little bit for a while. And so they said, look, Lorin, you've got too much to offer. You should be back doing this again. And so I opened my own business, and about 6 months later it kind of took off. I was working, pretty much as busy as I wanted to be, and to a point where I was like, gee whiz, I'm not going to be able to handle this on my own. So I am just starting to expand now and taking on a new, maybe you'd say understudy, but or junior practitioner.
Is that the word?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many names you could call them. In fact, it's my brother Dean, who's a great therapist. He actually went into the industry about 18 years ago and didn't never quite finish the course, and he had a other career running at the time, and so he didn't do it. And so now he's like, Lorin, I think I might go into it. Can I come and work with you? And I said, yeah, sure. Go finish your diploma and come and work with me. So that's where it's starting. But I'm certainly looking at, expanding a network of professional, passionate therapists around Brisbane and maybe even further.
That's fabulous. And it is the way a lot of people in this industry operate, is that it's relatively easy to start a business just working for yourself. But then, of course, as you move up that ladder and you get busier and busier, it becomes obvious that if you want to keep growing, you've got to be able to scale in some way, and being able to employ people. And you even mentioned you're running workshops and also doing some public speaking, that kind of stuff. They're also great ways of being able to continue to rise up that ladder of health leadership, I guess, and continue to have an influence in an even bigger way.
That's right. And I look and I think to myself, I only wish when I started, and we're talking like 29 years ago now, I only wish there was that same level of leadership, of kind of both in the health aspect of the business, but also in the running of the business. There was nothing like that back then. And in fact, we were told when we left our course, when we finished, one of the lecturers said, look, you probably won't make a living out of this. And I'm like, what a thing to say. What do you think? Well, why not? I couldn't see why not. But having said that, looking back in the very early 90s, where massage was still kind of moving out of that kind of seedy kind of period, and not really quite being recognised as an allied health profession.
Mm.
And so, we were very, very much on the outer in those days. And so it really has changed enormously over the last, generation, really.
Isn't that great? And being able to have that level of, stepping back quite a long way and look at it over a few decades, it is amazing to see the leaps and bounds that the industry as a whole has moved forward in. And I guess if we continue to look forward, if that progress keeps happening, who knows where we'll end up in another 20 or 30 years.
Oh, and you're exactly right. And there are so many facets to that. I think when I started, there was no such thing as health fund rebates back then. No, there's nothing like it. And in fact, I think Grand United and Manchester Unity were the only two health funds at the time. They were the first ones to come on board. But, of course, they weren't considered mainstream, and so there weren't too many clients that had access to that. And it wasn't until the late 90s then that health funds then finally turned the corner and started to recognise remedial massage and naturopathy and other natural therapies as a worthwhile and, in fact, very beneficial therapeutic practice. And so that really changed the industry, and it was only like 20 years ago that happened.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about it like that, isn't it?
And to think about that, that's right. And so, but having said that, when I was starting out, when you and if I could use the word loosely, or inverted commas, competing with like the chiropractors and the physios and the other guys who had all of the health fund rebates and all that. Man, if you survived in the massage industry back then, you had to be good at what you did. You had to be very savvy and very, very good at what you did. And so, I was really committed to doing that. And as you notice here, I've got my white coat on now because I'm at my clinic today, actually. And I worked with an osteopath for many years and treated thousands and thousands of people. And we did that for about 5-6 years it was. And, he used to wear the white clinic jacket and a nice pair of trousers and shoes and that. And when I went out into my own private practice, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think it really made a big difference, particularly, as I mentioned back then, when massage was still struggling to be accepted. I wanted people to know as soon as the door was open and they stepped in that, hey, this guy's serious, this guy's professional. And particularly women coming to see you as well, because sometimes they don't always feel comfortable going to males, and yet they often came to me and said, Lorin, we feel absolutely comfortable with you. We know, that you're a professional and we're completely safe here with you. And so it was great to get that feedback in those very early days.
Yeah, that's great. And great to have a value of setting that standard of professionalism for yourself and leading the way in the industry for that as well. That's great. So what I'm hearing is that in those early days, it was quite different. The industry was still pretty raw, still pretty new. And you've got a lecturer there saying, you're probably not even going to make a living from this, which I think is pretty crazy. I'm glad he waited till the end of the course too, better than saying it right at the start. But what was it then that actually made you want to get into massage? Where did you find that calling on your life to work through all those challenges?
Well, here's where we maybe go back a step further, James, and just to know a little bit more about me. When I was born, I was legally blind. I only had about 10% sight, which meant I could read really huge print, or I had to use magnification to read. In fact, that's how I did my course.
Wow.
Was with magnification. And education was quite a struggle. I was an intelligent guy, but yet access to seeing it was just a real challenge. And so I'm growing up through all this, and then like so many blind people are kind of unemployed. It's like, well, heck, I don't want to be unemployed. My mum and dad were like, heck, we don't want to look after you for the rest of your life. You've got to get out there and get through school and get a job and have a career and buy a house and have a family and get married, all that sort of thing. And so there's some massive stresses and decisions that had to be made back when I was very young even. And as a teenager, I remember thinking, gee whiz, what career am I going to do? My dad was in the building game. He was a roof tiler. Like, there's no way I was going to be building houses or walking on roofs, So as I mentioned, I enjoyed science and I enjoyed people, and I guess being blind had a natural tendency to be good at feeling and good palpatory skills, and so it just seemed a natural progression, I guess, to go into the health industry in one way or another, whether it was physio, osteo, chiro, massage, and so that's what I did, and moved to Sydney at the time and started the course, and we had to make a couple of adaptations to the theoretical component of the course, but that worked well. I came out with distinctions and high distinctions, and the massage part of it was great. It was just, and it's great because it is such a hands-on, practical type career. And
how
so
fantastic!
That's where it began. That's where
it obviously has led to a good career. You've been in the industry for many years, and sounds like you've treated thousands of patients, of clients, and had great results from that, running your own business and working with others. So what a fantastic career it's turned out to be. It was a good decision in the end, right?
Well, I think I was very lucky that when I did graduate, I actually was lucky enough to pick up I went actually to approach an osteopath or chiros and that to say, maybe I can get a bit of work experience or something like that. And the first door I knocked on, they said, actually, we're not looking for work experience. We actually need someone part-time to work for us. And so I said, this is a great opportunity. And
awesome.
Within 3 months, he said, Lorin, you should have gone on. You should have become an osteopath. You're too good for this industry. And I'm like, well, no, there is a need for what I do. And so I worked with him for many years. And then I went and started my own business. I did that for many years. And I think at about that, what would have been that 12-year mark, I treated about 30,000 people by that stage.
Amazing.
And so it was an extensive career working on broken down shearers and farmers and right through to the Olympic athletes. I worked on some of the Olympic team, and it was a real highlight.
It sounds like an amazing career. I just I want to ask, I know this is primarily a business podcast, right? I love the business stories, but I know that listeners listening who are massage therapists who want to know a little bit more about the actual hands-on side of things as well. So I'm just going to ask one quick question about that.
Yeah.
When someone first comes into your room, and I know a lot of massage therapists will ask questions and then do visual assessments of the people who are there before they get the hands-on body to that end of the work. And I guess I wanted to just ask, how does that work for you? Do you do the assessment and diagnosis through touch as well? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's an interesting question. I reckon the visual assessment is certainly a really valuable assessment tool. But I think in the years that I've been doing this and the thousands of people that I've treated, I reckon it only tells you 10% of the story.
Wow.
And I'll explain why, because I think for me I was lucky in the sense that I had a really great mentor. The osteopath I worked for had a master's degree and had already been working in the industry for many years. He is probably still to this day the best, whether it be osteopath, chiropractor that I've ever met. He was very, very good at what he did and was very hands-on with what he did. And so I had extraordinary mentoring just side by side with him for 5-6 years. And so when I treat somebody, I didn't have to necessarily do the assessment as such at the time, but you have your hands on thousands and thousands of people. And so your palpatory skills, your anatomical knowledge, your understanding of what's going on is just exponential. It just skyrockets when you treat. I haven't just treated 100 or even 1,000 people suffering headaches. I've treated 5,000 people, 8,000 people with headaches. I haven't just treated 2 or 3 hairdressers. I've treated 60 hairdressers. What you learn by working on that many people, you see so many trends and predictors and often it was interesting because I remember even the osteopath I worked for said, even taking an X-ray gives you a one moment in time snapshot of what's going on, but it doesn't tell you how that body moves or functions or how it feels. And so when you put your hands on them, and particularly when you can't see, I'm feeling a 3-dimensional picture.
Wow.
Underneath my hands. I'm feeling not just what's happening on that's tight there, but what kind of tight? How is it going through or across, or is it how's the, and that's what when I do my workshops, I teach therapists about that. What are we actually feeling? Become very, very specific about, I can tell you how long the problem has been there just by touching them for 20 seconds. Like I say, right, that's been there for probably 5 to 8 years, or 10 to 15 years, or it's only been there for 2 weeks. Like, because I know that type of tension feels like. And so, and obviously I can go into more detail. We're not running a workshop now.
No, that's right. But it's amazing to hear that.
But
And
what you feel tells you so much more about not only how long it's been there, but what impact it's having on the body, and then what treatment skills do I need to use, what tools do I use in this case to release that and mobilise that part of the body again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I guess I'm hearing too, there's a heap of experience that has brought you that knowledge. It's not just head knowledge, it's body knowledge.
Oh, no.
You've got that. You know how it works.
It's hands-on. When you feel that many people and with similar, and then when a variation to that theme comes along, you can feel like, hang on, this person's got a headache, but they don't seem to have the same biomechanical restriction in their upper cervicals and cervico, maybe the CT junction like they did with the last 100 people I did. So therefore, let's go looking further afield. And so just that vast experience kind of helps you when some of those odd cases come in as well. You can recognise them almost immediately that, hey, this is different.
Yeah, I love that. So we've got a couple of really big factors right at the beginning of your journey. You've had a fantastic mentor and you've got a bunch of experience really quickly, which has helped you to raise your actual professional skills really, really well. And you've got that value on professionalism, which you've inherited from that as well. That's sort of led to you being a professional in the industry to make that work really well. What would you say then, if we're looking at those beginnings, at those early times when you started building your own practice and your own business? A lot of the people listening to this are in business for themselves.
Yeah.
There's always challenges. Sometimes we have lots of challenges. Sometimes we have a good run for a while. But there's always challenges in business as part of what business is. For you, looking back, what would you say were the biggest challenges, the biggest times of stress or of challenge that you had growing that business?
Let me mention a couple. One, and I'll try to keep them fairly concise. One is trying to change the public perception of what remedial massage was all about was a much bigger barrier back then than what it is now. And so that was so changing public perception was one big challenge. Number two was I came from doing a full-time job. I was working with this osteopath doing 45 hours a week, treating 110 people a week.
Wow.
And then you're like, okay, I'm busting myself. I'm probably making a very meagre living out of this. And yet if I was working for myself, I could probably do less than half those hours and make the same money. And so now I go from a full-time job with a reasonable income to nothing. And so taking that plunge, I guess, into private business, into private practice is and I'm sure there are many, many of your listeners out there, James, in that same boat, where they're just starting from scratch and like, gee, how do we turn this into something? And you're letting go of that security, that safety net of another job to finally venture into your own business. So that's scary. There's no question. That is scary.
Yeah, it's a huge step of courage, isn't it? And faith in your own ability and your own future. And
so the third thing I want to mention is probably the key, I think, is one of the major keys. You, apart from obviously, your skill set and your massage skills and your qualifications and so forth, there are a couple of things that you have to offer. And I think one of the most important things you need to think about is you're not just starting a business. You're starting a brand. You're building a brand, and you are the brand. You are it. And so it's like, okay, what do I call my business? Do I call it, Brisbane Remedial Massage or what? Because that doesn't necessarily say much. It doesn't tell people about who you are, what you do. Why should they come to you? You need to ask yourself those questions. And I was asking myself those questions. Why are people coming to me anyway? And so when I get a couple of clients, I ask them, look, what am I doing that you really like? You know, why did you come to me? How did you find out about me? You know, and so you ask a lot of questions. You do a little bit of market research on yourself. And sometimes it can be quite revealing. They'll tell you things that maybe you don't really want to hear. But then you go and you fix those things and you make those adjustments and changes. But coming back to the brand, it's then about, okay, well, what am I portraying out there to the community? Because you have to give them a reason to come and see you. And so I understood even back, 25 years ago when I was starting my own business, I looked in the Yellow Pages because that was the only place you advertised unless it was the local newspaper.
Yep.
And I like, okay, what are the other massage therapists doing? In fact, not only the massage therapists, what are the chiropractors and the physios and the other guys doing? And a lot of them just had a very, very basic. And I thought, well, hang on, I've just got to stand out here. And here's another key too, I think, which will be worthwhile everyone really taking note of this. Don't tell people what you do because they don't care about what you do or what they think you think about yourself. What they worry about more than anything is, what am I going to get out of this treatment? What am I taking away from this treatment with you? They're interested in the result. And so you'll have this website and they'll have your list of, I do remedial massage, Swedish massage, trigger point therapy, blah, 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 blah. There may be some people who are looking for those things, and that's fine. But what most people are looking for more than anything is, pelvic pain from pregnancy or headache sufferers or pain relief or sports, treating sports injuries, or they're interested more about what the type of thing that you are delivering, as an outcome, more so than the tool itself.
I love that. That is so true.
Sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense to me. I mean, like my background is marketing and communications, right? So we talk about that a lot. And so many times I see people exactly like you're saying, they write trigger point therapy, Bowen, just all these things. And I'm like, you know what, to most of humanity, they don't even understand what those things mean, let alone how to differentiate between, am I about to have a remedial massage or a deep tissue massage or a trigger point therapy? I don't know what I need.
It's and even then they don't even know the difference. Like, what is a remedial massage? Like, I don't know, it's just one that feels. Was like, but Swedish massage.
Yeah.
It all feels good. There's no such thing as a bad massage.
And in the industry, people know those things are different. We've got different definitions for them all. But the way you want to make it is exactly like you're saying. Talk more about the problems people are having and the solutions that they want. And then they can relate. They come and they see something that says solving headaches, fixing pelvic pain, whatever. They're like, that's what I need. And then you say, I use trigger point therapy. And they go, I don't care what you use. I just want to feel better.
I just want to feel better. Yeah, that's right. And so when you're looking at your website nowadays we look at our website. In those days it was the ad that you had in the Yellow Pages, my very first ad, front and centre just said pain relief.
Beautiful.
Because that's what I feel like that's my niche, is giving people relief from pain. So it's pain relief, and then I'd have a short little blurb and then the phone number. And
love it. So simple.
Whereas now with a website, it's the same thing. They don't need a description on what remedial massage is. They just want to know what the benefits are going to be or how they're going to feel after they've had their remedial massage or their Bowen treatment or whatever the treatment is, deep tissue, myofascial release, whatever it is,
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's really, really great. What about, tell me for a sec then, because you've had a good career in massage and you've done really well with that over a long period of time. What led to the public speaking and the inspirational, motivational speaking that you do?
Well, it was interesting at the time. I was married and I had my house, as I mentioned, my own business running, and it was going steadily. And we had 4 kids at the time. We still have 4 little, they're not little kids anymore. They're growing up now. But we got 4 kids, and we were up visiting my wife's family up in Queensland, and her dad just happened to be the principal of a school, and he saw us coming into town. He said, "Hey, Lorin, I just noticed you come into town. Can you get Lisa to bring you over to the school to my maths class?" I've got a group of Year 10 maths kids here. I want you to have a talk to them. And I'm like, what in the heck am I trying to talk about maths for? And he said, no. He says, I've just got some kids with some problems here. And I said, I think, I want them to realise if they put their mind to something, they can achieve it. And particularly coming from a blind person, I think they're going to really love listening to you. So I went over and spoke to them, and these kids were just blown away. I had never done it before, and I just shared with them some of the challenges, some of the success stories, and so forth. And then they asked questions, and afterwards he came to me. His name's Trevor. He said, "Lorin, I couldn't believe it." He said, "The first two kids that put their hands up were the kids I'm having the biggest problems with."
Wow.
He said, you should be doing this. They would really benefit from hearing your story. And so that's where it started about 16, 17, almost 17 years ago.
Wow.
And I've probably done about, not just schools now, it's ventured further afield into corporate groups and so forth, probably 4,000 keynote addresses and workshops.
Gee, that's amazing. Well done.
Yeah. So I've been in front of a lot of people. In fact, and I'm a professional guitarist as well. So, I mean, the music certainly helped with that keynote performance sort of work, because everyone always loves listening. But they're sounding like, holy cow, how does he do this? You can't even see the guitar. It was always it's always a bit of fun. You can always hear a pin drop when they find out you're blind.
Yeah, that's amazing. How great is that?
Sort of
So across all of that then, across the massage itself and running your own business and then doing public speaking, getting involved in it, what would you say is maybe your biggest proud moment? What's the biggest achievement that you've had over that time?
Oh, wow. I need to say this, James, at this point. I have had so many proud moments, so many achievements in my lifetime. It'd sound like I was bragging, I guess, if I said some of the things that were just great. But in saying that, I want to say that I don't get up in the morning thinking to myself, all right, what amazing thing can I do today? I just get up thinking, you know what? If there's a great opportunity out there, I'm going to pursue it, and I'm going to make the most of every day. And I grew up with times where I felt like, where I questioned myself, where it was discouraging, and I thought, you know what, I can either sink or I can swim here, and I decided to start swimming, and so for me, really, just to live a normal life and to be married with 4 wonderful children, to have a successful career, to do something that I love in itself, I guess, really is the ultimate achievement. But to single, I guess, a couple of highlights along that road would be probably working on some of the Olympic team. I remember his name was Andrew Curry, one of the head javelin guys, and his partner at the time and now wife, Louise McPaul. I used to treat them. She went on and won a silver medal at the Atlanta Olympics in 96. But I remember saying to him, I said, look, how do I scrub up to the Australian Institute of Sport therapists that you get down there? He says, well, Lorin, there's quite a few of them down there. He says, but I don't compare you with any of the massage therapists. I compare you to the head physio. And that, as a therapist that had only been in the industry for like 3 years, was just a very humbling experience, really, I guess, to have them say that sort of thing. And it's like, well, I guess the natural question is, why do you say that? And that's probably another podcast again, probably, but that's one of them. I guess another one was when my brother and I were the first, and in fact, we're still the only blind people ever ride push bikes across Australia from Perth to Sydney. That was in 2010.
Wow.
And we rode tandem bikes. We had sighted guys with us, but 4,100 kilometres. It's a long way.
That's a long way for anyone. That's a major achievement. Yeah, well done.
So that was great, and in more recent times, I guess I was one of the baton bearers at the Commonwealth Games. The Queen's Baton Relay, and spoke at the and presented at the Invictus Games. So I've had a lot of involvement around sport and around various major community events, performing on Carols by Candlelight several times on Channel 9, lots of other events like that. But I think, you know what, for me to come to work and have a client come in pain, and you ask them, like, okay, out of 10, what are you? Like, I'm an 8 or a 9. And then when they walk out and they say, man, I can't believe I'm like only a 2 or 3.
Wow.
Out of, that really is. We underestimate, don't we, how significant that is in the life of a person.
Yeah.
And there's no television, there's no newspaper article, there's no, it doesn't necessarily go on your biography or anything like that, but yet those individual lives that you get to impact. But having said that, you're only going to be able to impact them regardless of how good your skills are if they find out where you are in the first place. And so marketing, getting your brand, as we mentioned, out there to make your personal awesomeness available to people is really the key. So look, there are several challenges, there are several successes, I guess. That's a little snapshot, though, James.
Well, what I love there too is you've got a whole heap of gratitude just for things that are happening in your life that we might all think are fairly normal, obviously great things, but just sort of fairly normal parts of life, at the same time as having these absolutely massive major achievements that I think most of us can only aspire to, that level of awesomeness with some of those things. I guess
it's one step at a time, though, isn't it? It doesn't happen overnight, and that's why you do need to be grateful for what you've got right now.
Yeah,
and see those little achievements, those little milestones, because they are the things that prepare you for the bigger achievement. The big achievement doesn't. If someone came and gave me the gold medal now, you probably would never have. You probably wouldn't have been prepared for it. You wouldn't have handled that kind of situation, without having all of that other experience and milestones along the way. And so, you've got to be grateful for that.
Yeah, I love it. And what I want to ask is, obviously you've had challenges in your life as well that might be more than what an average sighted person would have. Even achieving that same level must be challenging in a lot of ways. Do you kind of feel like having extra challenges in life has led to a mindset that has empowered you to sort of move forward more proactively in areas?
It definitely has. And it sometimes can be looked at with the old saying, is the glass half empty or half full? Because the reality is the waterline is at the same level regardless of which way it is, and it's how you look at it. And so, as I say, when I'm doing a lot of my motivational work, it's like there's only one thing that you and I have control over, and it's not how much money you have or what you're genetically born with or what skills or education all those other environmental factors around you. It's the next decision that you make. And, of course, those decisions will impact the education you get, the way you respond to certain situations, how successful your business is. Those things come as a result of that, those critical decisions that you make. And so I mean, I'll say there's a couple of the key messages that I share in, even when I do my motivational work. And I think it's the same here. It's like, we hear about never giving up, but it requires sacrifice. When you're there doing overtime, what are all your friends doing? When you're there practicing your guitar or doing an extra course on the weekend or, doing the hard yards, sometimes your friends are out there having a good time. But yet the rewards come to those who really know how to kind of delay that gratification sort of thing. It's don't look for the instant result today. Be prepared to back yourself and keep going and never give up. That was, I guess, one thing. And the other thing is that it doesn't matter what anyone else says or thinks. There's only one person stopping you from achieving, and that's yourself. And so I guess I learnt that as a teenage boy, and that really helped me, coupled with the fact that my parents kind of pushed me out to do things, and I've learnt to become a problem solver. I've learnt to challenge myself and not to fear failure. In fact, everyone's going to fail. We're all, you're not going to be brilliant at something the first time you try it. But I don't get too worried about that anymore. I just, let's have another go at that, and I guess those sorts of things have, I think, stood me in pretty good stead.
Oh, I love it. And it's obvious that they have. And we talk about that a lot too. Failure is just part of the learning process. And if we're too scared of failing along the way, it stops us from making that progress that we have to make. And I reckon I can just see that you've embedded a lot of those learnings really, really deeply. And the challenges that you've had there that you've had to push through have kind of led to having that motivation to keep pushing through even more stuff.
That's right.
It's a fantastic mindset that you've developed. Well done.
And it's, thanks for that, James. And it's interesting. Just I'm hearing you say that, because when I first learned it, it's learning a new pathway. You have to develop that. It needs to become almost habitual, I suppose. Or perhaps we learn the theory, but then you need to, as soon as you can, apply it. Try to put it into practice, because once you've done it a couple of times, it just becomes automatic. It starts to become almost built into your subconscious. And I don't think anymore like, can I do this or can I not do it? It's like, yeah, no question, I'll be able to do it. It's just a case of deciding, do I want to do it? That's the decision that needs to be made.
It's great, isn't it? Because it's like you were saying with the actual massage skills too. It's like the more experience you get, obviously you're just better at doing the diagnosis, creating the outcomes that you want. And it's almost the same. What I'm hearing is the mirror internally is almost the same. The more you practice staying active, the more you practice overcoming obstacles, the more you practice just doing the do, failing, getting back up. The more you practice it, the more you get experience at it, the better you get at it, just like anything.
Exactly right. I know even Jordan Peterson, everyone seems to know about him at the moment on YouTube, the famous clinical psychologist. He says, you know what, the more you aim, the better you become at aiming as well. And so it's definitely true. And so once you've done it a few times, it's like, oh, yeah, that works now. I know that works. I can do that, and I know it's going to pay off for me. And so that's what I've learned, and I've had a lot of falls. Don't you worry about that.
I love it. So, what do you see for your future then, Lorin? Like, what's next? Are you going to continue doing more motivational speaking? You've obviously got the practice now that's going quite well as well.
Yep. You know what? I've always been a giving type person in more than one way. I think it's great to give and to be able to help my clients with their physical ailments. It's great with the motivational work to help people with their mental or social or emotional motivation and so forth. One of the things that I think has just presented itself for me now is to run workshops for massage therapists. I see a lot of new graduates come out saying, hey, I've just graduated. Can anyone give me any tips and ideas? I want to start my own business. And, there's some great opportunities out there for you. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to offer the same mentoring that I received when I started, because I don't think many therapists get that. It's very hard coming out in this industry and just trying to do it on your own. And if you can get some mentors that can help you in the business side of your career, as well as the clinical aspects of your career, then you'll just be empowered. You'll take all of the tools that you've learnt from college and to be able to really apply them to develop a really successful career for yourself. And so, I've now running a couple of workshops. One is the suboccipital and cervicothoracic release workshop, which really focuses on a lot of, upper thoracic and cervical problems, headaches, brachial plexus issues. And then I also run a second one, which is a real companion to that, is more of a thoracolumbar sacroiliac, so all this lower back, degenerative disc disease, sciatica, pelvic realignment type issues and things like that. And so I'm looking forward to really sharing that knowledge and helping therapists really unlock the potential of their palpatory skills for diagnosis, particularly when it comes to the deeper problems.
Yeah, I love that vision, and I love the heart you've got for helping other therapists get to that place as well.
Yeah.
If someone listening is interested in attending one of those or learning more about them, where would they go? Do you have a website for those workshops?
Yeah, I do. I'm about to launch a new website, and it's called Advanced Remedial Therapy.com.au. We're just about to launch that. Or otherwise, probably the immediate place to go would be Advanced Remedial Therapy on Facebook, and like my page, because when the new workshops are coming, that's going to be certainly the easiest way to find out where, when, and how. And if you'd like one in your own local area, yeah, just get in touch with me. If we can just get a handful of therapists together, we'll be able to really make it a successful and rewarding experience for everyone, and particularly for your own clients as well. They will really notice the difference. If I can somehow share 32,000 massages worth of experience with you in a couple of weekend workshops, then we'll impart as much knowledge and information as we can.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. And we'll put links to both of those things in the show notes, to the website and to your Facebook page. So if someone listening is interested, click through. Also, by the time they're listening to this, that website might be up and running, right? So definitely go and check those out if you're listening to this right now. It's been absolutely fascinating to chat with you today, Lorin. I have really enjoyed the chat, hearing about your story, the challenges you've overcome, and a whole lot of the mindset side of things as well that goes with it. Do you have one last piece of advice or a big learning that you want to share with our audience before we finish up for today?
Oh, wow. I'm going to just say that, even though I've had years of experience, and I wonder how many therapists would have perhaps had the hours and hours and hours of experience that I've had. But at the same time, can I just let you know that I am still learning? And I think, if anything, it's my one message to you is always be humble in this life experience that we're going through and in your business. Never think that you know everything and that you can't learn something, that you can't give a little more, that you can't learn and receive a little bit more. I think it's that open mind and just having a personality that's warm and receptive to other people. I think the more you network as well is just a wonderful benefit to you, and to be able to learn from everybody's experience. I think that's ultimately where a lot of our growth comes from, and particularly when you're going through any of those tough times, because you're not the only one that's going through it or has been through it. We've all been there and we've all experienced it. We're all on this path, this journey together. So let's all look out for each other. That's my message.
Oh, I love that. Well done. Thanks, Lorin. Thanks again for chatting today. I wish you all the best for the future. Can't wait to catch up next time.
Cheers. Good on you, James. Thanks so much.